China has $3.3 trillion of foreign exchange reserve. They can literally buy the whole world. Well, not exactly, but they bought the whole of Australia in New York. So Obama, who usually stays there for the UN meeting, is afraid now because he really got the Chinese. And so 3.3 trillion. So this board, they are trying to finance through Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. That's AIIB. That is a bank for infrastructure development that China has established, and now the US has joined it. They are competing with Europe and so on. Now even England is part of it, except the US, of course. You see? And so AIIB, I'm not saying the World Bank is bad, but there's enough room for infrastructure. I mean, you know, the US, every base in New York City is, I go to New York City a lot. You know, every day there's, train number F is not running. So I'm saying the bullet train of China. So it's not only that China has this AIIB and has this $3.3 trillion, but China also has the skills. They produce more engineers. You see, America, the latest survey from the OECD, Office of Economic and Cooperation and Development, about education level in the world of 15-year-old in math and science. So, number 1 is Singapore, number 2 is Hong Kong, number 3 is Taiwan, number 4 is Korea. Can anybody guess how much is number US? What? 27. Yeah. How do you know? Well, how do you know?
I don't know, right?
Well, yeah. Well, 26 or 27. Finland is the first European country, is number 9. So I'm not saying we are the best, but these are facts. No, the problem is, take Apple. 1 million Chinese are employed by Apple to produce their assembly line. Their design is done in California. But the Chinese, 1 million people. And then the world around say, good job. But you see, it's not just that their wages are lower, but their education levels. Well, I don't think, Cornell, I've been to Asia. Not saying I'm proud to be Asian, engineering, MA, 90% are Indian or Chinese. Are you Indian? No. What are you?
Mauritius.
What?
Mauritius, a tiny island in the Indian Ocean.
Mauritius.
Yeah.
Mauritius, yeah. I know Mauritius. Malay is the language. All countries with Ma, speak similar.
Oh, yeah.
You know that? Yeah, Malaysia. So there is the competition. But I think that we should, instead of competing, I said, don't join the AIIB, we should work together. There's enough bridges to be built. Instead of saying World Bank versus AIIB, So there's a little bit of, you are right, Cold War. But the Cold War on the security side for me is less. Of course, if China starts to attack them, we have trouble. As you know, Taiwan is a no-no, and Taiwan just held elections. So as long as Taiwan doesn't say we are independent, because then where should the US be? So of course US is still much way ahead of nuclear weapons and so on. But as I said, China has now airplanes, and they all build them domestically, this airplane. Yes. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
I was really interested when you were talking about the refugee repatriation.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, if you just talk more about it or anything about that can be applied to the current Syrian refugee crisis, or is it totally not the same scenario?
Yeah, it's different, you see, because as you know, the Syrian refugee crisis is really achieving Syria and going to nice places in Europe. Now here actually these are Cambodians, well in a way of course they suffer on the top, but they go next door to. Now the problem with Syria, of course there is a European Union, you see. I'm still Indonesian. When I go to Europe I need a visa, but once you get Schengen visa you can go everywhere. Except now they start closing the borders because of the refugees. So I don't know whether it can be applied, but I don't think so. And the Cambodian thing is they use them as politics, to attack the same government. But there is no purpose there in Europe. I don't know whether that answers your question.
So you mentioned in the book about the West using human rights to impose the Western hegemony on the rest of the world. And I was wondering if you could expand on that, as well as will Asia be kind of increasing its human rights, do you think, as it become more economically developed, kind of like the West?
Well, yeah, that's a sore point with China. Yeah, I said China, this and that, but human rights, of course, is a big no-no. It's a big, bad part of China. It's not just tolerant, but also dissidents, they disappear and so on. And of course, it's still a communist country, so you cannot just say this and that for the government. Now, I talk about TPP, now I'm praising the US. So TPP, the trade TPP of the US, does talk about human rights, labor rights, and so on. The other one doesn't care. So TPP has high standards of human rights and so on. Now, going back to Asia, it depends on country by country. You see. In my country, I talk about, we have now a president called Jokowi. And you have heard of Jokowi. He actually is the same age as Obama. And Obama, I don't know whether you all know that he lived in Indonesia for a while because his stepfather was Indonesian. And they were the same age. And Obama and his mother said, that so much is hidden by, it's impossible to, how can they hide this 500,000 being killed? So in Indonesia, until today, this Jokowi is democracy, blah, 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 but he is still afraid of his military. They are still strong. So there are two governments. If I give a lecture tomorrow, the one I'm giving tomorrow, not today, about massacre in Indonesia, if I give a lecture in Jakarta with my passport, I will not be able to well, I will be in jail. So given that, now Cambodia, I don't want to talk about, I don't know much, well, I don't know much. But of course, there's still a lot to be decided, of course. So in general, of course, should we say that Asian human rights? Yes, this is one of our shortcomings. I like to do the best. You remember what I said on human rights officers, they are Europeans, educated people. They are not afraid. Because Christopher Schuk actually went to find jails, hidden jails hidden jails where people are still shackled. So Europe was already at that time. My human rights officer is Eugenio Polizzi from Italy. Also very dedicated people. And until now, when the Europeans are here, you meet some of them, and many NGOs are there. You can meet them everywhere in Australia. And you will see that they are very, very good. But maybe you can tell me more on that. But so I'm saying that I think we are still lagging behind on human rights. But then some countries make progress. And I hope the others also. But democracy doesn't mean always that human rights is advanced. Indonesia, as I said, is democratically elected. Human rights is, I cannot still talk about the 500,000 people being massacred. It's all being questioned. Yes.
Yeah, so I was wondering, we visited once last like S21. I was really surprised to see this huge exhibit on Sweden and their consistency in supporting Khmer Rouge in its recognition in the UN. So I was kind of wondering if you could explain the politics of recognition that were happening and going on in the UN that kept the Khmer Rouge in power for so long.
Sweden, you said?
Yes.
Well, as I said, US and China together with ASEAN lobbied for that. And I've seen her notes and that's my friend Jacob, that's all the lobby to vote against the Minister government. And the majority did vote with the Americans. The ones who were voting against are Russia, China of course with the US, Russia and the East, and India. India was the number 9 country that voted against recognizing the Khmer Rouge. But why did you mention specifically Sweden? Are you from Sweden?
No.
But why did you mention specifically Sweden?
Well, there was a journalist named like Gunnar or something that had, that had a really apparently key role in keeping that was so supportive of Khmer Rouge. He was basically blinded into supporting them in the UN and whatnot.
Oh yeah, well there are these, there were these people who are starry-eyed and supported Khmer Rouge. Even when Finland was beginning to that, well, of course, Hong Kong Capital was killed in Cambodia doing that. Later on, so you're right, I mean, I'm talking about the governments, you see, but you are right. On the layman's side, there is also a problem, you see, because they continue to recognize the Khmer on the government side, but on the layman's side also, just like the genocide in Indonesia, why didn't the journalists expose the genocide in Indonesia? The journalists, okay, of course, in those days there's no internet, there is no Twitter and so on. So that's one thing. Nowadays you cannot make 500,000 being killed. In those days, what happened is you have to ban journalists from traveling outside Jakarta. And as I said, today with Facebook, we cannot do that. But in those days, so don't forget, the times in those days are still there. But I don't know whether it answers the question. Yes?
Yeah, you spoke a lot about the similarities between the history of Cambodia and Indonesia and how they both experienced like genocides.
Yeah.
I was wondering why, in your opinion, why the Cambodian genocide is more well known than the Indonesian genocide.
Okay, well, that's a very good question. Maybe I learned it over tomorrow's lecture, but you are busy tomorrow morning. Tells you exactly why the Indonesian genocide was not recognized, not known until today. Number one, when Suharto killed his 500,000 communists, Lyndon Johnson died in Jamaica attack. Remember the domino theory? You saved us from communism. You saved us from communism, and so he's a hero. And the Americans did say, let's end the genocide from being too much wide known. So you are right. So what I said is, but my answer is still the same. There is no internet in this. You see? So everything can be kept under control. As I said, Suharto used to let journalists go outside Jakarta. And most of the killings are done in Central Java and East Java. So number one, it was kept secret because the U.S. not condoned the killing, of course, but the U.S. considered Suharto a hero. Have you ever heard of the movie called Act of Killing? Act of Killing, yes. You haven't seen it in front of him?
How many people have seen it?
Did you screen this last semester?
Yeah. Okay, I'm just curious about how many people have seen it, because you can stream it on Netflix, and it's fairly easy to access.
Well, you know, the act of killing was a movie or documentary, but the actors were the actual killers.
Yeah,
You know, but that answered in a way your question. They were not only letting loose, they were heroes. So I
Still are.
yeah, still are. So I'm a big passionate thinker about this. I talked in Rutgers University about this. Now, for instance, DC CAP, that's the Documentation Center of Holocaust. So the US, although they recognize the heroes, and on the level of making the genocide known, of course, the US government has done a lot. You see, they have the center in Yale. You know, you have heard of genocide. And this genocide, GC camp was a part of Yale also. So the US gave a lot of money for instance. And in addition, the US wants to keep it secret too. There was no incentive to keep it secret. Now, the act of killing, these people, they said, this is how I did it, this is how I did it. And these are the killers, and they were let loose. If I exposed, as I said, today it's still closed. So actually we have two governments in Indonesia. So Jokowi was very democratic and so on. But Jokowi is still scared of the military because they are very strong. Don't forget, you know, the US military was trained by the US. The US didn't spend so much money on law because Indonesia is a much bigger potato. You know, so they have to train. I know I was in Kansas in Fort Lauderdale. All the Indonesian generals, I know them, you know. They were not trained in the US, so they all become spies. So, but that's a very good question. So it's supposed to be done in secret. Now suddenly there is a big activity to open it up, especially I call it the Melbourne Mafia. In Melbourne there's a big mafia of scholars who deal with the Indonesian genocide. Now, you know, of course, we all want to talk about Cambodia. Maybe we can be famous to talk about the Cambodian Indonesian genocide. Melbourne, as I said, there's a big mafia there. Robert Graves, and Koppel, and so on.
Can I also just make a plug for our smaller mafia at Cornell? So Indonesia is one of the larger components of the Southeast Asia program. And there are various faculty and engineers, disciplines. There's Tom Kapinski in my department. There's Eric Tapiocozo in history. These are people who engage with Indonesia. And if you are interested in these types of questions, even though it's not their area of expertise, it's something that they know an awful lot about. And I completely agree with Ambassador Mujibna in terms of the importance with which to publicize this very real part of history.
Thank you. Yeah, just one more final thing talking about Cornell. You know, when Suharto says that I'm justified to share 500,000 companies, it was Ben Henderson from Cornell, who was actually that time graduate student. I know him there. He typed a paper called, the Cornell paper. And he proved that it cannot be the Communist Party who was against the movement. Because whatever he says is, number one, after there were 6 generals who were killed by the leftists, and Suharto said this is done by the Communist Party. It took 3 weeks after that, and the Communist Party didn't do a thing. So Ben became famous, or Ben Anderson became famous with the Cornell paper. He was banned from Indonesia under Suharto, 32 years. And he loved Indonesia. I know him very well. My office was next to him at Kyrgyzstan. And after Suharto died, he returned as we know, he died with the So yes, so charity we can do a lot of stuff in Cornell. Well, there is also in Holland, there was a trial in 1965. These trials were the people's tribunal, financed by billions of dollars of NGOs. And it was a big affair, with reporters, with judges, and so on. And it was broadcast worldwide, but it was deaf. In Indonesia, you cannot see it. And on on human rights. You talk about, you killed 32,000 Indonesians and so on. So it was not only banned in Indonesia, this screening, but in Australia. Because Australia is scared to death of Indonesia. It's so near, but so far from God. So Australia, also, I have a professor in Melbourne that I was not. We try to see their city, but I give it the website, and you can't go away and say, census. Australian government is so scared of Indonesia. So a lot of people, countries are still scared of Indonesia, big country, not because of the Jokowi government. The military is there working with that. Okay. So maybe this time, and then go to. Is it no use here?
So you mentioned a book. You mentioned a book that the UNTAC work, and that was all these administrators. It's sort of like the UN expectation for UNTAC to go in and supervise the local government.
UNTAC, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's really counterintuitive that how would a bunch of foreign civil servants will be able to go in and sort of like untangle the intricacy of the local government, all these like human relations, all these like voices and all that. And why would this be expected? And how is it done?
Very good question. Because this is the reason why the three anti-Hun-Sen factions are agreeing that Hun-Sen must be controlled. Otherwise, we will not sign this agreement. So that's why I said, even the Khmer says, we don't want to be demobilized. Because you did not fulfill, you did not fulfill your agreement, your task to dismantle Hun-Sen. So, in other words, the Paris Agreement was signed because the Sun faction insists that Hun-Sen's government has to be controlled. And Hun-Sen, of course, has to sign because he was cool at that time. Now he was probably should be held. But at that time he was cool and and he was just one before. So that's why Hun-Sen hates Hun-Sen. He doesn't like. He wants those people, we all know as an ambassador is okay, but he at those times is no good. So he hates it. 23 October is an anniversary of Hun-Sen. And there was a great 20 years crisis celebration for South Africa. Because he thinks we actually forced to him to be controlled, which of course is a ridiculous thing. It's I was told it by South Chopras saying I went in front of the governor of saying we start at each other and I'm blaming how can I control it? But it was never really my recent paper called Oxford University Press handbook on peacekeeping. I have a chapter there on that. I explained that exactly. So that's 800 pages. So I explained that why it was never intended to control Hun-Sen. It was just to please the players and sign here, Hun-Sen will be controlled. Okay.
So in that book, we get the impression that UNTAC was not always very fair and that the United Nations might not have been the most effective. I was wondering, what is your general opinion on the United Nations as an organization?
Well, not just
Not only UNTAC, but the UN in general.
Well, you see, first of all, the UN consists of two things. The Secretariat, and the member states. The one who really holds the power are the member states. And among the member states are the 5 permanent members. Now, we are the servants of it. Ban Ki-moon is a servant of the member. So that's why when Hun-Sen and Sihanouk tries to bring peace there, the bosses in New York and the 5 said, no. China and US said, no, you cannot exclude the members. So it's very difficult to have consensus in the whole world. Well, now we're talking about ISIS policy. Now they say, oh, we are against tourism, blah, blah, blah. But when it comes to practice, it's very difficult. People ask not only about UNTAC, but the whole world. At best, what we can do at best in the UN is to avoid another World War. And so far we have been successful. It seems like this compromising about Hussein has to be dismantled and so on. So in other words, we are good at compromise, but not good at actual solution because it's very difficult. You have to have consensus. Now Putin says this and that. Putin says Assad has to stay. But the UN said no, he has to go. So we try to have a compromise, at least to stop the fighting. Yeah. Okay, let's go back to the
I know that Cambodia is not signed on to TPP.
Cambodia is what?
Cambodia did not sign on to TPP. Why is that? Is it today?
Cambodia is not one.
It's not part of the TPP?
No. Sign on. No. TPP, you cannot sign it on. You have to be invited by the US.
The U.S. did not invite Cambodia.
Not even Indonesia. I have in my other lecture, I have only 12 countries TPP members, including 2 in South America. Because TPP is from APEC, Asia Pacific Economic Council, and that is, APEC is an organization that covers both sides of the Pacific Ocean. So TPP are 12 only so far, including Mexico and Peru on the other side, and then Korea, Japan. No, Korea is not even there. Japan. So the US picks and chooses. You see, Singapore is, Cambodia and Indonesia are not. So we cannot just say, oh, well, we could apply, but it's much higher standards than the other ones that I mentioned. The ASEAN Economic Community, and then there's China and 6 partners called RCEP. That is much more lenient. So TPP has higher standards, on labor, as I said, human rights, on environment, and so on. China usually ignores these things. But you cannot just say, I want to join them.
So why do you think the U.S. didn't invite Cambodia?
Well, it's not just Cambodia. They want to invite people who are ready. You see, so the advanced ones like Singapore and Japan is TPP. You see.
Vietnam.
Mexico.
Vietnam.
Vietnam is a very interesting case. It is very advanced now. If you know, your trip doesn't go to Vietnam. Well, Vietnam is much more advanced. My research lecture is about ASEAN readiness. Vietnam is considered quite advanced now. So labor laws and so on has to be in place if you want to join TPP. It's much more rigorous than I said at the ASEAN Economic Community. ASEAN Economic Community is 10 countries, everyone is joining already. But there is CLVM, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Myanmar, and Vietnam. These are lower standard than original Vietnam, 6 ASEAN countries. So even in ASEAN there is this first tier and second tier. But so TPP is very much sophisticated, and the US has invited only these 12 groups.
Thank you.
So you said the 2 major failures of UNTAC was like failure of demobilization and controlling Cambodia's civil administration.
Yeah.
So my question is do you think these failures were unavoidable, or if the UNTAC could have implemented some policy to overcome these failures?
Okay. Well, the demobilization of the 4 armies became impossible because the Khmerus refused to be demobilized. So we have 4 armies, Hun Sen, Khmerus, Hun and KPN. Hun only control 2 villages in the border, as I said. KPN control Bantai province, some area there. Khmerus control Thailand, and so on. But we try to demobilize the 4 factions, but Khmerus refuse. So they don't even allow Kashi to enter through their territory. So not only do they refuse for us to demobilize them, but they refuse also for UNTAC to enter their territory, and they refuse to be demobilized because they said, well, it's, as you said, related to the second one. I don't want to be demobilized until Benjamin, I'm going to say because UNTAC, the generals of the commandos who I deal with in Siem Reap tell me, you have to demobilize Hun government, then we will demobilize. You have to control Hun government. Now, Hun government, like what I said to the when they really asked, someone from this side and this side. Hun government doesn't want to be controlled because they say we are the de facto government since 1979. And you don't recognize us, as I said, the Austrian policy, you say you had it, and no, Hun Sen doesn't exist. Well, that's stupid. I have it here. Everywhere is Hun Sen, you see. I was here in the same way, as I said in my book, I went with my UNTAC brigades, the police from Bangladesh, soldiers and police from Ireland and French foreign legion, I went to the governor and I said, I'm the governor of Chile. He said, no, I'm the governor. The real governor, the Hun Sen fellow. I said, I'm the governor. He said, no, I'm the governor. Finally, as I said, we stared at each other and I did, and that's the end of control. So because Hun Sen government, now again, there's a question is, did we want to control this? No. It was just signed in there so that the other three factions are able to sign. Because Kuberus is the one who insists we must dismantle Hun Sen before we can have peace. Yeah, and this side. Yeah. Okay, yeah, because you have free beer for 2 hours waiting for you. I will also get company too, by the way.
Why is it that the Indonesian military is continuing 50 years after the massacre to keep it such a closely guarded secret? And do you think that in the near future they're going to be more open about what happens?
Okay. Well, first of all, Suharto was in power 32 years. In those days, it's taboo. But now, you're right. There's democracy, so-called, and it is. But the military is still there. Those people who committed, this Jokowi narrowly lost the presidency from General Prabowo. General Prabowo is one of the goons, And he is a military general who was massacring in East Timor also, in Indonesia. Now he is still there. And he narrowly lost from Jokowi. So actually, I must say, it's partly I blame the US because the US made the military so strong. I said 2,800. The one law is nothing compared to it. Because one law is a small, Cambodia is a small country. But Indonesia, they don't want to lose Indonesia. So until today, the military is still there. And when this tribunal in Holland was as I said, broadcast, the Rupert Panjaitan, who is the Minister of Security, officially says to Holland, shut up, how about you? Colonial power, you killed, massacred Indonesia, Western Indonesia. So what somebody I said you also talk about human rights, right? When these Western powers are human rights, we should say, but you also violated human rights too in colonial period. Because, well, just like America, right? So human rights is on that. What about the American Indian? What about the African American? So that's neither here nor there. I think that's the reason. The military is still there. I'm afraid. I wanted to change my nationality to the US, but I don't want to be under Donald Trump. What you want to say? Yeah. She's the boss. One more. Are you not thirsty? You don't want beer? Okay.
That'll be quick.
highlight of your like entire career. So I'm wondering why was the experience so rewarding despite its kind of
Okay.
challenges?
Very good question. Now you touch upon my life career. Okay. Yeah, well, my father was a businessman in Indonesia, so he wanted me to succeed him, so he asked me to study economics. It's a long story, but I don't want to bore you with the details. But so I studied economics, I got my PhD, I got a job in the UN, the economic sector. It's boring, you know. But I have 4 children, I have to continue this boring stuff. So it's shuffling papers from the in-trade to the out-trade, sometimes out-trade. So when this opportunity came, as I said, when I saw this reputation, I couldn't do my teeth. I said, I must go to Cambodia. And that's my passion for Cambodia. Secondly, talking about why is it the highlight of my career? I turned out to be, I have political talent, maybe more than economic talent, not because I would be rich, as I said. I would have been doing the Cambodian beer, you know, and not having but so these are the reasons. Well, it wasn't that I answered no, just a few years ago, we did with that.
So once again, I'd like us to please thank